In this video, we'll be taking a look at how to use one of these Kodak disposable film cameras. Disposable film cameras are an easy way to get started with film photography. You simply just need to purchase the camera, use up the film, and then send it to your film developer of choice to get the photos back within a few days. These cameras are pretty simple to use because there is no strange settings that you need to set on these cameras. They have their shutter speed, apertures, and even lens focusing to be fixed. Some of these cameras even include a attached flash inside its camera body. So in most cases, you just have a camera that can point and shoot, and you have a flash if you need to use flash in your pictures. Today, I would like to explore how to use one of these cameras in your daily photo taking sessions. To get started with taking photos with one of these cameras, we first need to learn how to prep the camera. Simply use this cog wheel located at the back of the camera on the right side. Turn it with your thumb until you feel that the wheel can no longer be turned any further. Now the camera is primed to be able to take the picture. We now also need to figure out exactly what the camera is going to take a photo of. This is where the viewfinder located at the top of the camera will be useful. Look through the window, and whatever you see that's through the window is most likely whatever the camera is going to take a photo of. Now, before you take your picture, ensure that your subject or whatever you want to take a photo of is at least 1 meter away from the camera. How do you figure out 1 meter? Well, 1 meter is about one single arm length span. So if you cannot reach or touch that particular subject, most likely you are far enough away for the subject to appear in focus when the final picture is taken. When you're ready to take the picture, simply press the shutter button and you have proceeded to take your first picture. To continuously take more photos, just simply wind the cog wheel as per usual, compose using the viewfinder, and then continue to press the shutter button. This camera is designed mainly for taking photos in outdoor environments. If you take a look at the settings released by Kodak, you can see that the camera has fixed settings of ISO 800 film, aperture of about f10, and a shutter speed of around 100 of a second. When you take a look at the EV calculations with this particular setting, you will see that there's an EV value of about 11, which is most suitable for taking photos around the outdoor sort of environment. If you were going to use this particular camera on a sunny day, usually the camera and film is tolerant of overexposures. So this camera is very suitable for taking photos at the beach or at a bright and sunny day in the streets. It is also pretty okay if you're going to use it in rainy environment or a little bit slightly overcast, although do take note that certain things might disappear and lose details in the shadows. Where this camera struggles is if you try to use this particular camera indoors or at night. And this is where the attached flash would help you because it allows for more light to be added to the scene so that a photo can actually be taken. If you would like to use the flash in your photo taking, simply press on the lightning bolt button located at the front of the camera. Once you see that the LED at the top of the camera is lit, this means that the camera is primed and ready to fire the flash the next time you press the shutter button. Proceed to wind the camera, compose, and then take your picture. You will see that the flash would fire. Take note that if you would like to cancel the flash before you take the picture, you can simply use an object to cover the flash so that you ensure that the light that is coming out of the flash bulb is blocked. The flash is useful for mainly indoor photography or night photography. So this is where if the scene is a bit too dark, you will want to give it a burst of light in order for it to be exposed properly on the film camera. You can experiment using flash to also change the mood of the settings. This flash that is attached to this camera is what is known as a direct flash. So when you press the shutter button and fire the flash just simply fires straight ahead directly at your subject. This creates this sort of happy birthday photo vibes, which I call it, where the subject is properly lit, but the background, especially if it's far away from the subject, usually isn't really lit properly, and you can see quite a bit of harsh shadows. You can use it to your advantage if you like this particular vibes. However, usually this particular camera with its lens quality and the resources that you have for this camera gives the photos a very nice sort of lo-fi vintage vibes to them. Flash can also be used in environments which are bright enough for proper exposure. This is something known as fill-in flash. For example, in this particular car park scene that I wanted to take a photo of, we can see that the background with the cars and the buildings behind are properly lit by the sunlight, but the parking meter isn't really lit properly because it is in the shadow. If I can use the flash, I can actually fire the flash directly on the parking meter to be able to increase the brightness. And therefore, you can now see that the parking meter is properly or at least better lit as compared to the previous photo where it disappears into the shadows. This flash also is pretty limited in the sense that it's not really a very powerful flash. So if your subject is not within the flash range, then you could face problems with exposures. Too close and the scene and the subject will be way too brightly exposed with the flash. Too far away and the flash would not be able to reach the subject and it will become too dark. The flash range is for this particular camera is about 1.2 to 3.5 meters. So long as the subject is within that range, usually the flash will be able to reach it for proper exposure. And of course, the closer the subject, the brighter it will appear with the flash firing. When you're done taking the pictures, you will see that the counter for the film counter will reach all the way to the number 1. Once you scroll and you see the downward arrows, usually it is the time for the film to be rolled back into its cassette. Keep firing until you see that the counter reaches 0 and you're ready to send the camera directly to the film processor to be able to develop your photos. Of course, not all the photos that I take with this camera can really be considered properly exposed. So one example you can see over here is that I was trying to take a photo of the evening time period. So the sun has already set below the horizon and you can see that currently in my environment, the environment is starting to become a bit dark. When I try to use the flash, you can see that the flash completely doesn't really light up any of the trees that's present in the scene because the flash is not powerful enough to reach that particular subject. In this other photo, you can see that the flash fires directly upwards to the sign, but it cannot really touch anything else that is behind. So if you want to create this sort of vibe where it is a little bit like spooky and lo-fi, you can actually use this particular camera with its weaker direct flash to be able to achieve this particular effect. Sometimes, if you want, the photos actually can still be edited using software. Just like how in the old days where you can use a dark room to adjust certain things about your pictures, you can now use software such as, for example, Adobe Lightroom to be able to adjust some of the pictures. One of the photos that I've taken over here is located in one of these old sort of abandoned shopping malls. I always like to use these cameras to take the photo because it gives that sort of lo-fi vibe to them. And what I would like to do in this particular picture is that I can see that the film isn't really properly exposed. So I'm going to do some settings on Lightroom to be able to correct some of these errors. One thing I can do is that I can raise the black levels like so that I cause anything that is underexposed to just disappear into the shadows to embrace this sort of darkness. You can also use the noise reduction things such as the luminance and the chrominance noise to get rid of those weird specks that you may see on the film. And of course, there's the usual other settings such as, for example, color balance or maybe even adjusting the brightness curves to be able to achieve particular effects on your pictures. There is no one correct setting present inside these film photos. It's up to you to adjust the film photos depending on how you like your pictures to look. Overall, I kind of like using some of these cameras because it provides a challenge for me to be able to try my best to take good quality pictures even with cameras that are not really pristine or high end. So the lens that is present inside this camera is made of plastic, isn't really too advanced. So you can see that many of my pictures, even if they are properly exposed, are a little bit soft. So is this really a limitation of film photography? Not necessarily. So you can take a look at this other photo that I've taken and you can see that it's a lot more sharper and well defined as compared to the other photos I've shown so far. This is due to the usage of higher quality lenses and film formulations to be able to achieve a better quality picture. Well, I do hope that you enjoyed following me on this journey of using one of these Kodak disposable film cameras. If you have any questions, do drop by a message on this YouTube video and I'll do my best to answer them. Thank you so much. So this is PhotoOrca signing off and have a nice evening.